And that's the hammer, William Jones. A wild one. The hammer has hammered out opponents on 15 occasions in his 19 wins. He is perfect at 19-0. Eric Holland comes in with a record of 8-14-3. And you know from past experiences, whenever you see two records like this matching up in the blue horizon, it is generally called for a wild fight. Eric Holland is known as a spoiler. His biggest problem from the start, he's been in the ring over his head, but he has a victory last year against former world champion Buster Drayton. He has never gone down, and he has been stopped only once in his 14 defeats. So he stands in front of William Hammer Jones, daring him to try to put him down. Now, Hammer has knocked out 9 of his last 10 opponents, but keep in mind, exciting things happen in the ring when Hammer Jones steps in there, because he has been down on 2 of those occasions. His last fight in March against Tim Raybone, Hammer down twice in that fight early and came off the canvas to win it by a knockout in the 3rd.
Well, he says in that fight with Raybone that he just got hit off balance, went down to the canvas, but he got back up to go on and win the fight. You know you have a good, dedicated fighter when he can get up off the canvas, go on to win. You know, he's getting nailed here in this opening round from Holland, but his hands are down by his waist. He has the same style as Bobby Boogaloo Watts, his trainer. Hands down by his waist, but very tough man.
Holland is digging in there, a solidly built 5'6". 151.5 pounds. He gives away 4.5 inches to Jones and 1 pound.
And Holland able to muscle Hammer around in this opening round, but Holland had been fighting in the heavier weight class, whereas William Hammer Jones is in the junior middleweight class. Big head shots. Eric Holland, the overhand right, is doing a lot of damage.
Oh, and Holland tags with a right and again. He has muscled Jones inside. He has not allowed Jones to take advantage of a 9-inch reach advantage.
And see where the left hand of Hammer Jones is? It's down by his waist. That's no protection for that overhand right. Hammer wisely ties up, holds on. He is out on his feet, walking on spaghetti legs. And Eric Holland again, the overhand right.
There's a time remaining in the 1st. This is scheduled for 8. Hammer Jones has fought as light as 144. And Eric Holland has fought as heavy as 160. And they both meet at around 152.
William Hammer has been off for 8 months. His last fight against Raybone back in March. Holland was hopeful that he would be rusty. And this opening round, he came out and started the fight. Catch your opponent cold.
Holland fought earlier this month. Final seconds of round number 1. Rudy Battle separates the 2. Big first round for the underdog.
Eric Holland wanted to start this fight quickly, and he did. In that opening round, he did not warm up at all. He just came out and started blasting. Here he is, blasting in that opening round, taking control of this fight and of that round. Good opening round for him. He said his fight plan in this match was to step in and just start firing, and he did.
I guess you would consider it a successful round for Jones. He has started slowly before, and the last fight actually went down twice. This time he was able to stay on his feet. He's going in against a fighter in Holland who has a reputation of liking to slug, but has never knocked a man out. Holland with 8 wins, all distance fights. Rudy Battle, the 3rd man in the ring. It's 23-year-old William Hammer Jones out of Philadelphia, 19-0 with 15 knockouts. 11 of his KOs have come in the first 2 rounds.
And finally, Hammer Jones starting getting some hammering working. You got to start throwing punches. If you're going to fight like Jones, where you just sit down, stand toe-to-toe with your opponent, you got to punch. See how Jones carries that left hand down by his waist? Very dangerous. That's why.
Right there, Holland takes advantage of it.
What you try to do is block everything with that right hand and flip up with your jab from down there. It's easier to throw the uppercuts when you have your hand down by your waist like that.
It's not really that Jones is a slow starter. It's that he comes out so excited that he tends to get careless in the 1st, because he does have 7 first-round knockouts. But he comes out flowing. Sometimes you build up that reputation. That's what you start looking for every night. And in the process, there are times you leave yourself open. And that's what happened in his last fight when he went down twice in the first round.
Well, he has a pretty style. His stance is pretty, but it's not pretty to get hit. If he could move his head a little bit more, he would be more effective with that left hand low. Oh, the two banged heads right there. Jones didn't like it. Against those shorter fighters, if you bang heads, you will get the worst of it if you're the taller man, because you'll get the top of their head.
Hard.
Yes, very hard. And if you get cut, it'll come in your face, and not. If it cuts him, it's going to cut him on the top of the head.
And right now, Jones keeping his distance, but not getting the jab going. Holland is 28 years old, from Philadelphia. He was born in Mexico on an Air Force base. From Philly, 8-14-3 is his record. And the story of his career just always gone in over his head. From his very first pro fight, when he dropped a 4-round decision to Chris Eubank, who later went on to win the WBO middleweight and super middleweight crowns.
Well, he's not afraid of anybody, and that certainly shows in his record. 8-14 with 3 draws. And he will fight anybody on short notice. Takes a lot of fights in the other man's hometown.
He was stopped only once, that by Joe Gotti in the second round, but never down. He's gone on to spar for Joe Gotti, along with Meldrick Taylor and Maurice Blocker.
In that second round, the two banged heads. Look at this. The man with his hand down by his waist, like Hammer Jones has very little protection from the top of the head. Here comes Holland with that head low and his punches downstairs. Bang, the two crack heads. Ooh, that hurts. And he cracked right on the end of his nose. That is a very tender part of the body.
Third round action. This is scheduled for 8 junior middleweights.
In that second round, William Jones got busy, he threw more punches, but he still is having to beat Holland off of him. Holland's got to get back to that overhand right. Remember how successful that was in the opening round?
Well, if you're just tuning in, and I told you one of these fighters is 19-0, and the other fighter is 8-14-3, try to guess which is which. And that is the nature of some of the great fights put together by Russell Peltz here in the Blue Horizon in Philadelphia.
You know, you take a look at a person like William Jones in the black trunks. If he, with his height advantage, he can take and box around. He can be a cutie. He could use that reach, try to stay on the outside. But he likes to war. He likes on the inside. And this is a funner way to fight. There's more action. Sometimes it's on the end of your nose, but it is more action.
Jones in the black backing up. He's the one who's 19-0. And the aggressor in the blue trunks, Eric Holland, 8-14-3. But one thing Holland owns that Jones doesn't is a victory over a former world champion. That was Buster Drayton back in the summer of '91. Third round, and continuing to work inside is Eric Holland. Pennsylvania Golden Gloves champion. We're talking about the only time he's been stopped by Joe Gotti, and has since become a sparring partner. Matter of fact, he and Joe were pretty close. After this fight, matter of fact, they will be traveling to California to finish up a fight scene in a movie called A Bronx Tale, starring Robert De Niro. So I guess right now he's just kind of
he's acting like he's fighting.
He's just preparing for the scene. That's all.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, he's been doing a good job in these first 3 rounds. Busy pace from him. Eric Holland has done all the fighting. Hammer Jones tries to come out of his shell, but every time he does, Holland pops him with an overhand right. Jones had better get some punches together and get some reach on his adversary. Then he can put some shots on him. Smothering him.
We are looking back at Hammer Jones and Eric Holland here at the Blue Horizon. A chance to remind you what's coming up next week. We'll be moving to Detroit, actually Auburn Hills and the Palace. And you'll see former heavyweight champ Tony Tubbs, who's keeping busy. That Lionel Butler nightmare now only a memory. He's coming off a win over Bruce Seldon. Tony Tubbs, who went 10 rounds in defeat to Riddick Bowe, so you might imagine what might be on Tony Tubbs's mind. We'll talk to him about that next week. Also on the card, and we'll start it off with what could be an energetic 10-rounder. Tyrone Trice and Brett Lally will square off. That's all coming your way next week from Auburn Hills on Tuesday Night Fights right here on USA. Let's go back to Hammer Jones and Eric Holland, and we'll pick it up in the 5th round.